Welcome, Invincible fans, to Noir's deep dive into the Invincible universe. With Season 3 of the animated series behind us and Season 4 still in the making, we turn to the comics to explore the next chapter of this expansive saga. Issue 66, crafted by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and their brilliant crew, unveils the insights you seek, serving as the equivalent of Season 4, Episode 1, picking up where the show left off. For those eager to delve deeper, this is where the journey continues. In the aftermath of their escape from a Viltrumite prison alongside Battlebeast, Omni-Man and Alan drift through the endless void of space. Omni-Man, his face and prison clothes stained with blood from the fierce battle, shares a grave revelation with Alan. He discloses that fewer than 50 full-blooded Viltrumites remain in the universe, a staggering decline for a race that once held dominion over countless worlds, now teetering on the brink of extinction. This marks a pivotal moment in the galaxy's power dynamics, as the Viltrumite Empire's collapse could shift the balance of control. Omni-Man then confides in Alan, stating that it is time for his friend to learn the hidden history of the Viltrum Empire. As the scene shifts to a distant view of the planet Viltrum, Omni-Man continues his conversation with Alan in the depths of space, unveiling the dark history of the Viltrumite Empire. He informs Alan that he already possesses a significant understanding of Viltrum, its history and the Empire, confirming that much of this knowledge is accurate. Omni-Man then delves into the origins of the Viltrumites, revealing to Alan that they were a violent race who valued strength above all else, engaging in a brutal campaign to eliminate their own weaknesses by slaughtering the less capable among them, forging the powerful Viltrumites known today. With a unified vision, Omni-Man explains that the Viltrumites eventually turned their focus outward, establishing the Viltrum Empire, a formidable force that expanded at an extraordinary pace for nearly 1,000 years, dominating countless worlds. This relentless growth, however, came to a devastating halt when their enemies developed a deadly virus capable of harming them, setting the stage for a catastrophic shift in their fate. As Omni-Man's recount of the Viltrumite Empire's downfall deepens, the devastating impact of the scourge virus comes into sharp focus. In a Viltrumite medical facility, the virus ravages the population, with high-ranking Viltrumite General Craig among the afflicted, losing an eye to its brutal effects, a mark that will later define his enduring loyalty to the Empire. Omni-Man explains to Alan that the virus, uniquely tailored to their genetic code, spread rapidly, leaving no way to halt its advance and placing the entire Empire in peril. Efforts to quarantine the infected failed, as the virus, later known as the scourge virus, had already spread to nearly the entire population. The survivors faced a grim reality, enduring a brief period where their strength and invulnerability were drastically reduced, leaving them vulnerable to attacks. In a harrowing scene, ferocious Ragnar beasts exploit this weakness, tearing through Viltrumites, with veteran warrior conquest suffering the loss of an arm and an eye in the chaos. From a Viltrumite space station orbiting a distant planet, the few who endured witnessed their empire's near collapse, considering themselves the fortunate ones to have survived such a devastating ordeal. The devastating impact of the virus unfolds as Omni-Man shares its grim toll on the Viltrumite Empire. He describes how the virus ravaged the Viltrumite population for decades, leaving their bodies to form a grim ring around the planet Viltrum, a haunting graveyard that mirrors Saturn's rings in its eerie permanence. In the end, less than 1% of the population survived, a staggering loss that brought the once mighty empire to the brink of extinction. Yet miraculously, the Viltrumite Empire endured, its few remaining members poised to reshape their destiny in the galaxy. Omni-Man explains that Viltrumite leaders spread reports of their expanding empire while their ranks continued to dwindle, leading to new strategies to maintain control. He reveals that his mission on Earth was part of one such plan, a desperate attempt to preserve the Empire's stranglehold on the galaxy, now based on the hollow threat of their former strength. Omni-Man then discloses that crossbreeding with conquered races, long forbidden, became a necessity, with human DNA proving nearly 100% compatible with Viltrumite genetics, making Earth a prime target for this initiative. He notes that the results of the scourge virus were concealed from the galaxy, but remained a haunting memory for the Viltrumites. Their planet now isolated from outsiders as a solemn tribute to their fallen brethren. a constant reminder of the sacrifices made to continue their relentless quest for interplanetary domination. Reflecting on the Viltrum Empire's plans, Omni-Man admits that he now views his mission as a futile endeavor. Alan, grappling with the shocking revelations, realizes the horrific fate the Viltrumites have planned for Earth. Recalling his own traumatic birth in a breeding camp and insisting that they must warn Mark to prevent such a nightmare from unfolding. Omni-Man counters that they must instead take him to meet the coalition of planets' leaders immediately, as time is critical. Alan warns that gaining his boss's trust will be challenging, given the complexities of the situation. Omni-Man emphasizes that the coalition must be informed of everything he knows to have any chance of stopping the Viltrum Empire's takeover of Earth, adding that they'll need the information he recorded in his books, which he scanned to ensure he wouldn't forget the Viltrumites' weaknesses and to keep such knowledge from falling into the wrong hands. Information he now hopes will prove his allegiance to the coalition. Alan agrees, deciding to gather his gear so they can depart and set their plan in motion. Sometime later, Alan arrives at Tellescria, the secret home base of the coalition of planets, after his intense discussion with Omni-Man. His partner Talia confronts him immediately upon his return, demanding to know where he has been. Alan, still reeling from his recent mission, explains that he was captured by the Viltrumites for several months and only recently managed to escape, unable to contact her due to the lack of opportunity. Talia cuts in sharply, clarifying that she's not concerned about his mission's duration, as she's accustomed to his long absences, but rather about the fact that he slept on the couch instead of joining her. Alan stammers in response, apologizing and explaining that he and his companion arrived very late, which led to his decision to sleep on the couch. Talia directly responds to Alan's explanation, her voice sharp with longing and frustration after months apart. She declares that she doesn't care how late he gets back from a mission, reminding him of the rules to wake her up, as she's been living without him for months and is now hungry, demanding that he give in to her desires, calling him an Unopan god. Alan pleads with Talia to stop, explaining that he can't right now. Talia, growing more exasperated, insists they skip the pretense, questioning if she must always hear about the Unopan population and their strict procreation laws forbidding their union before every intimate moment, urging him to cut the excuses and get to it, as he always does. Alan firmly responds that that's not the issue. Talia, her suspicion rising, pauses and questions if he said "we" got in really late, her words hanging in the air as a shadowy presence looms nearby. The tension explodes as Talia, spotting the shadowy figure, screams in shock, identifying him as a Viltrumite. Omni-Man steps forward, apologizing for the awkward situation and offering a hesitant greeting. Talia, reacting on instinct, pulls a massive gun from the couch and fires a blazing shot, shouting for the world-conquering scum to die, the blast illuminating the room with a fiery glow. Unfazed by the attack, Omni-Man assures her he's not there to hurt her, promising his peaceful intentions despite the smoke rising from his singed form. Alan quickly intervenes, vouching for Omni-Man's character, explaining that he met him in prison and that he's a good guy here to help the coalition, before turning to Talia with a mix of surprise and amusement, asking if she keeps that weapon hidden in the couch. Talia, still on edge, admits she does when Alan is away on missions. Omni-Man, his clothes charred from the blast, suggests they should probably get moving, eager to proceed with their urgent plan. Hidden among the towering skyscrapers of Tellescria, the central base of the coalition of planets buzzes with activity as two coalition agents, the Data Twins, engage in a critical conversation. Sharing a telepathic mind, Data Twin number 1, the one with the thinner body, marvels at the star maps, asking if the other is cross-referencing the hidden visual markers. Data Twin number 2, the one with the larger body, responds that he isn't, but quickly realizes the markers align perfectly, noting this could be the key to ending the Viltrumite threat once and for all, as their download completes in mere seconds. Data Twin number 1 suggests canceling their plans for a Chumbak match that night, preoccupied with processing data in the back of their shared mind, feeling unable to relax. Data Twin number 2 agrees, prioritizing duty over leisure, and wonders how much longer Alan and his companion will be with Thadeus. Eager to discuss the discovery with him, Data Twin number 1 reflects that Alan has been meeting with Thadeus and the rogue Viltrumite for hours, unsure of their timeline. Data Twin number 2 admits that, ever since Alan's recent transformation, he finds him terrifying. Data Twin number 1 counters that while Alan may be intimidating, he's firmly on their side, questioning why there should be any fear of their own agent. Inside the central base, Omni-Man and Alan finally meet with Thadeus, the leader of the coalition of planets, who is grappling with the shocking information Omni-Man has shared. Thadeus, visibly troubled, reveals that the Viltrumites are nearly extinct, with fewer than 50 purebloods remaining, a fact he was unaware of until now. Omni-Man, puzzled by Thadeus's reaction, notes that as the leader of the coalition, he expected Thadeus to be pleased with this news, given their mission to defeat the Viltrumites. Alan begins to interject, but Thadeus cuts in, admitting his inner conflict. He is the leader of the coalition, sworn to bring down the Viltrum Empire once and for all, yet he is also a Viltrumite himself. Omni-Man, stunned by this revelation, refuses to believe it and demands that Thadeus perform the Tulok Pull, a ritual to prove his identity as an undercover Viltrumite agent. Thadeus agrees to comply if Omni-Man insists, though he notes he has already performed this ritual for Alan in the past and found it unpleasant. Alan confirms the truth of Thadeus's claim, recalling how Thadeus pulled his beard right off during the ritual, an act he describes as utterly wild. The conversation between Thadeus, Omni-Man, and Alan continues, with Omni-Man grappling with the news of Thadeus's Viltrumite heritage. Omni-Man confesses that he always feared something was wrong with him for turning against the Viltrum Empire, believing himself to be the first to defy their loyal traditions. Thadeus reveals that his own betrayal was erased from history's records, but stresses there's no time for this discussion, as they've already been conversing too long, and his people might grow suspicious since this isn't a standard briefing. He warns that there is at least one Viltrumite agent among the coalition reporting back to the Empire, so the work Omni-Man and Alan will do must remain secret. Alan, concerned, asks if the data from his infopod is going into the main database. Thadeus assures him that his trusted inner circle uses a separate database for sensitive information, and even they will be unaware of this mission's details, emphasizing the importance of the list they now have of weapons and beings capable of harming Viltrumites, which is invaluable to the coalition. He charges Alan and Omni-Man with the task of gathering as many of these resources as possible, granting them access to the coalition's armory for the next hour, the longest he can keep their actions secret from the Council, before urging them to go. Following Thadeus's orders, Alan and Omni-Man head to the coalition's armory, where they have just 1 hour to gather resources for their mission. Alan, excited, exclaims that the armory's offerings are impressive as he examines the advanced gear. Omni-Man, observing Alan's enthusiasm, remarks that while the gadgets look impressive, they might be unnecessary given Alan's immense strength, suggesting they could slow him down. Alan, with a playful smirk, fires back that Omni-Man's suit, complete with a cape, isn't exactly practical either, teasing him about the flashy design as they prepare for the task ahead. Having left the coalition's central base on Thadeus's orders, Alan and Omni-Man fly through space to begin their mission. Alan, sounding unsure, asks Omni-Man if he's certain about starting with their first target. Omni-Man reassures him that this target is relatively close and should be easy, considering it a warm-up for their mission. Alan, relieved, notes that the proximity is good news since his girlfriend wasn't too happy about him leaving for another mission so soon, though she couldn't be too upset as she packed him some fresh Kanzlok for the trip, which he enjoys with a satisfied hum. Omni-Man, curious about the snack, asks what it is. Alan, savoring the treat, declares, "It's the most delicious thing in the universe," and offers some to Omni-Man, who declines with a simple refusal as they continue their journey through the stars. Alan and Omni-Man arrive at their first target, the Nebuloid Belt, a rocky asteroid field in deep space. Omni-Man points out the location, noting that it's been almost 100 years since he last visited, and remarks that it looks exactly the same as it did back then. Alan, unimpressed, responds that it's just a bunch of rocks. Omni-Man, irritated by Alan's comment, sharply demands the infopod, which Alan hands over while defensively explaining that he was just pointing out the obvious. Omni-Man, focusing on the device, reveals that there's a code hidden in the text he wrote. The number of words in specific paragraphs about the asteroids will spell out the coordinates of their target, and instructs Alan to follow him as they navigate the asteroid field. Navigating the nebuloid belt, Omni-Man uses the info pod to calculate their target's location, explaining that if it's been 100 years, give or take, the asteroid's drifting speed and relative distance to each other should reveal the right one. Alan, skeptical, interrupts to ask if Omni-Man will actually be able to find whatever they're after. Omni-Man confidently assures him that he will, requesting a moment to focus. Alan, watching with a puzzled expression, offers to help, but Omni-Man brushes him off, saying he's almost got it and soon confirms he's found the target asteroid. Alan, still doubtful, questions how Omni-Man can be sure since all the rocks look the same. Omni-Man admits he's not entirely certain, but notes that this one looks familiar, and moments later, he spots something on the asteroid, letting out a sound of recognition as they close in. As Omni-Man and Alan close in on the asteroid, Omni-Man declares they've found their target, pointing out a gun amidst the rubble. Alan, confused, questions why the gun has been lying there for almost 100 years, asking why Omni-Man didn't take it back to the Viltrum Empire and why he left it behind. Omni-Man explains that the gun belongs to Space Racer, adding that Alan clearly knows nothing about him. Alan recalls Omni-Man's book, noting that he referred to Space Racer as Space Rad, and points out that, being nowhere near 100 years old, he wouldn't know much since Space Racer is no longer talked about. Omni-Man reveals he had to change the names in his book, unsure who might read it, including his son, to prevent sensitive information from falling into the wrong hands, and describes Space Racer's gun as an indestructible weapon that can only be triggered by Space Racer himself, explaining that Space Racer has a unique bond with it. If anyone else tries to take it while he's alive, he'll sense it and track it down, leaving Omni-Man with no choice but to leave it exactly where Space Racer dropped it. On the asteroid's surface, Omni-Man carefully examines Space Racer's gun, noting that thankfully Space Racer must surely be dead by now, believing the gun's bond to its owner should be broken. But as he reaches for it, the gun suddenly flies off, startling Omni-Man, who curses at the unexpected reaction as the weapon lands in a nearby pile of rubble. Alan, bewildered, asks what just happened, and Omni-Man, frustrated, explains that this will be more difficult than expected since the gun still seems drawn to Space Racer's corpse whenever it's touched, urging Alan to help him dig through the rubble to find the body. As they begin searching, Omni-Man suddenly hesitates, warning Alan not to move, his tone suggesting they may have uncovered something unexpected amidst the debris.
Nolan of Viltrum, give me one reason not to kill you where you stand.
In a twist no one saw coming, Space Racer, long presumed gone, emerged from the void, his sudden appearance enough to silence even Omni-Man and Alan. The weight of his presence spoke louder than any words, freezing both in place. Alan, breaking the tension with his usual dry humor, remarked, more to himself than anyone, that it was honestly crazy how Space Racer could go such a long time without eating. If you felt the weight of this issue like I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next drop. It only gets darker from here.